You may or may not know that Buick has had a wildly successful 25-year run here in China. And that's with the GL8, the granddaddy of MPVs, which has been running corporate investors, businessmen, government officials across the country in all that time. Of course, that's now being challenged by the new automakers such as Zeekr, Li Auto, Xiaopeng. So it makes this car even more strange. What is an American brand doing with a China-only car built only in China for the Chinese? But then modeling this same car in the US as the Chevy Bolt EUV. It's very strange, and this is a bit of a misfit here in China. But with the likes of BYD very, very close to America now, both in Mexico and in Canada, surrounding the US, is this the kind of car that American consumers could love? Well, we're going to find out. Well, you would think so. You would think Americans could like this car. It's like a mini SUV. Like I said before, they've already got the Chevy Bolt EUV, which is the same car, but this is in a slightly different packaging, a different look. You know, so what are we comparing with here? Why is this car here? What are its redeeming features? Well, I do like the exterior look. It's kind of fresh, it's quite modern, not outstanding by any means, not flashy, not groundbreaking, but it looks pretty decent. But what other redeeming features does it have? Well, it's got some windows. Yeah, it's got some wheels. It's even got wing mirrors. I know I'm taking the piss, but honestly, there's not actually that much to redeem it here. If we may for a moment admire the back end of the VELITE 7. It has the customary light bar across the back, which is de rigueur for all Chinese EV companies at the moment. So taking some local design cues there. It's not a bad looking back end, but I think the problem with this car is this, and I'm going to go into more details about that later. If this perhaps had a Opel badge or a Vauxhall badge, I think it might sell very well. But with this badge in this market, no. So let's talk about the boot. In here, it's got 363 litres of boot space, which does not seem like a lot. And when you get in here, you look, oh, that's the floor. That doesn't seem like much, but you open this up, of course, you have a full floor and you got a bit more in there. But the good thing is, if you fold down these back seats here, both of them go down, it gives you 1,331 litres of space, which means there's plenty of space in there to hide your shame in having bought this car over any of its local rivals. So then we're really struggling to come up with some very outstanding and exciting features in the most competitive EV market here in the world. I mean, this car has a 55 kilowatt hour battery, fine. It comes in 5 exciting, inspirational colors: white, gray, blue, dark blue and red. Okay, so it doesn't have that. It comes with a 5-star Chinese NCAP rating, great, fantastic, it's got that. It's about 4.2 meters long, fine, it's good for city driving. And the price. It's about 180,000 to 200,000 RMB, or 28,000 US dollars, which in this market is too much for this car. That's its biggest problem, as well as its brand. Oh, I've got to do this, haven't I? I've got to talk about this, oh dear. Yeah. This is the back. It's featureless, as you would expect. I do have 2 charging points down here and a proper plug charging point down there. That's actually quite a good feature. So if you're working on your laptop, you can send off a few emails or whatever you need to do. There's nothing else in here. Electric windows, got speakers as well. Now I think there is a model or a version, upgraded version of this car, which has Bose speakers in the side. So again, very feature rich, but the wrong brand. Also, Saturn, the car company from the 90s, they called up and said, you can use one of our old interiors, because this feels very old school. Now, it's kind of leathery material and then this patterned cloth, but it feels a bit 90s in here. Now, I quite like that. It's kind of a retro kickback, and it makes a change from all the awful pleathery stuff we get in some Chinese automakers at the moment. I just think in this colour it doesn't really work. It does help make the interior feel much bigger, and then I've got my skylight up here, which again makes the interior feel larger than it actually is. I should probably talk about the seating position as well. Decent, if not amazing. Yeah. Struggling. So this car doesn't really have a feature problem, it's just got a brand problem. Because I think in here is a really well thought out interior. It's a little bit button heavy. I don't think anyone's found quite the right mix of buttons and screen here, but this is going a long way towards that. So for example, I've got my climate controls down here, which are super easy to use when I'm driving. The feeling of the buttons is quite premium. It feels nice, it feels great. And I've got all my climate controls there. There's a lot of the same supplier who supplies Geely with their piano black has got their hands on this car. Far too much piano black in here. Driving modes are quite interesting because the buttons down here, don't know if I like them. They're kind of a bit not intuitive to what I'm used to. It's either a dial or a lever here. So a slightly different way of doing it. I'm sure you can get used to it very quickly though. The screen up here is a good case of probably a little bit too much information on the screen, but it's well designed in terms of legibility and making the most important things clear. So I've got my speed up here, my range over here, with a nice green bar chart showing how much range I've got. I like that, I think that's good. My driving mode shows me if I'm on P, R, neutral, whatever. And then the screen, this is actually a bit of a delight. Using this screen has been good, it's been uncomplicated, and I think, let's be honest, Buick's target market here is not really young people, it's people of advancing years, and they would love being able to use this. I managed to connect my Bluetooth on my phone to this very quickly and easily. The maps are super easy to use. It's rare for me to use demo car kind of maps. I always just use my phone because it's quicker, but this, very easy to set up. Then I've got interesting buttons up here. I've got a button to turn it off. I've got the home button is here as well, and that's the dial for the volume. And those are actual physical buttons for the screen. So again, this has really good features. It's well thought out. The driving position in here is good. Steering wheel size is good. Ergonomics is good. It's just not going to sell with that badge, which is a crying shame. Now, for some reason, this car has two driving modes. It has a sport mode, which just boggles my mind. Why do you need a sport mode in a VELITE 7? Like, unless, oh, okay. Problem number one, C-pillar visibility is shocking because the pillars back there are huge. I couldn't see anything out the back window or in that corner when I was trying to pull out. So it's a complicated junction anyway. Yeah, so this has sport mode. So unless you're a horny teenager with spots on your face who wants to drive really fast to impress Sandra from down the road, why would you need sports mode in this? Like, what, 8.5 seconds isn't fast enough? You need it at 7.5 seconds? Seems redundant, really. But in terms of, you know, driving experience, you can just jump into this car and go because it feels, it's kind of like a bridge between a petrol car and an EV car. It's familiar to a ICE car driver because everything in here, all the functionality, the buttons, everything are in the same place. But then it's electric powertrain, which, you know, I do think we need more of these kind of bridge cars. And we have to understand a lot of people are nervous about jumping into an electric car, but with a car like this, it's familiar, but with a different powertrain. And I think that would appeal to a lot of potentially new drivers from legacy brands into legacy EV brands. But why would you buy this car in this market at this time? That's what really confuses me. And America has this as the Bolt UEV, and I don't think sales have been outstanding there, but yeah, this car's weird. It falls between the cracks. It's just an odd car. Honestly speaking, would I buy this car? At the current price, no. If it was like 100,000 to 120,000 RMB, or I don't know, $15,000, $16,000, maybe less than $20,000, let's say, then it becomes a much more compelling product, and it's something that I would happily recommend to other people, because you know, people don't want all the bells and whistles all the time. They're happy with a car that just gets on with it, does the job, and is an EV, and will probably last almost a lifetime. And Buick or GM or SAIC, you know, this is a decent car, just not outstanding, and oh, it's going to struggle in this market massively, and it has. So what is this like to drive on the highway? Well, massive truck next to me here, and I can hear it rattling about, so it's not the most silent of cabins. Am I having to shout a little bit? Yes, I am. Yeah, this only has a front motor giving about 174 horsepower, so not outstanding, but this is all the car that you need. It's not like a Wuling Mini EV, which kind of struggles a bit on the highway, is a little bit scary. This is your normal kind of standard car, which gets granny from A to B, gets your parents from A to B, gets you from A to B, teenagers, it doesn't really matter. This is kind of that family all-rounder car that your 17-year-old son or daughter can drive with no problems. You know, it's safe, it's got China NCAP 5-star rating. It can do highway speeds I'm doing now, accelerate really well. You know, the controls are not confusing. It's probably similar to what you learned to drive in. It's just a good all-rounder. And this, I'm repeating myself all the time, but this would do really well in the UK and Europe. Hey. Quite a handsome little fellow, this VELITE 7. However, this kind of highlights the issue that Legacy Auto has here in China. This is a good all-rounder product. I think my parents would be happy to drive this back in the UK. I think most of you guys would probably be happy to drive this in your country. But here, in this market, with this badge, at this price, it does not work. I can get any of its local rivals for the same price with so many more features. And why would you pick this? So this is a warning to Legacy automakers once again. Even if you have a really good product, it's not guaranteed success here in the Chinese market. However, this is exactly the kind of car Europeans, Americans, British people, everywhere else would want.